Committee, what's your pleasure?
Move approval.
Motion to approve the minutes from Ms. Westra, second from Mr. Fletcher. Any corrections or commentary? Hearing none. Does anyone? Oh, Mr. Cano-Espina.
I abstained because I wasn't in last meeting session.
Noted. Does anyone feel the need for a roll call vote? Please indicate by raising your hand. Seeing no objection, the motion to approve the minutes passes. Ms. Howard, do we have anyone registered for early public comment?
Oops, sorry, I'm just refreshing. No.
Very well. Disclosures and recusals. Members of the body should make any required disclosures or recusals under the city's ethics code. Are there any such disclosures or recusals? I will recuse myself from item 2 because I am friends with the applicant. Okay, nothing else. Presentation of the consent agenda. Ms. Har, will you please list off the items that are currently proposed for the consent agenda?
The proposed consent agenda for tonight's meeting includes, with a recommendation to council to grant change of agent numbers 4, 5, and 6, new license public hearing numbers 9 and 10, and license issuance extensions, agenda items 11, 12, and 13.
Thank you. Are there any items that any members would like separated from the consent agenda?
Items 9 and 10, please. They're both new license applications.
Items 9 and 10. Any others? All right. If there's no further discussion, a motion would be in order.
Move approval.
Motion from Ms. Westra to approve the consent agenda as amended, and a second from Mr. Cano-Espina. Any discussion? Hearing none. Does anyone request a roll call vote for this item? All right. The consent agenda is approved. For those listening, Ms. Har will read off again which items were just approved. And if you were here to speak for one of those items, you are welcome to take off if you'd like. Ms. Har.
Change of agent, item number 4, Quick Trip, 3734 Speedway Road. Item number 5, change of agent, Quick Trip, 5445 University Avenue. Number 6, change of agent, Portillo's Hot Dogs, LLC. Item number 11, request to extend issuance of license beyond the 180-day limit under MGO 38.05, Blind Shot, LLC. Item number 12, request to extend license issuance beyond the 180-day limit under MGO 38.05, Boneyard Productions, LLC. And item number 13, request to extend license issuance beyond the 180-day limit under MGO 38.05, Madison Locomotive, LLC.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So for our first item, Item 2, I'm going to hand the gavel off to Vice Chair Fletcher.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Joe is our applicant, Veronica Smash. Is she with us this evening?
Yes, he is. You probably can't see me, but I hope you can hear me.
Hi, Veronica. How are you?
I'm fine.
Very good. Very good. Before we begin, Captain Donahue why don't you kind of provide an introduction and to the applicant and the committee about what we're about to discuss.
Thank you. So when you apply for a liquor license, there is a review and background check that is done. And there is a series of guidelines that are reviewed as it relates to anything that is in your background. And reviewing your background, there was a charge and conviction for resisting and obstructing an officer, and that was not listed in your original application. And that hits two guidelines. One, that the application isn't completely or truthfully filled out. And the other guideline.
I've not been convicted of, that was dropped. I was not convicted of that. I have a DUI on my record. I have not driven since my DUI. I'm atoning and doing the right things, but I was not convicted of resisting an officer.
Veronica, could you just let Captain Donahue
I'm sorry.
introductions, and I think we'll proceed from there. Usually the committee will call on you or the staff if we have questions. So thank you though for your.
I was not convicted though.
Thank you, Veronica. Captain Donahue, please continue.
Thank you. So the record that I was provided shows that there was a resisting and an obstructing an officer in August of 2015 that was charged out as a misdemeanor and was pled down to a county ordinance violation. In addition to that, a charge for possession of amphetamine, LSD, or psilocybin and possession of drug paraphernalia in 2017, and casual possession of marijuana. And I think you mentioned the OWI from June of 2020. And so all of those items kind of generate a further review and a request for you to show up here and just answer any questions. First and foremost, I'm going to take a second to look at the CCAP record to make sure that this is accurate on the resisting charge. But if you can just speak to your OWI, and you mentioned that you were atoning and doing the right thing. If you can just talk to us about that as it relates to being licensed as to sell alcohol.
Of course. Yes, thank you. I got a DUI. What can I say? I drank too much and I did the wrong thing, and I slept in a parking lot because I knew I couldn't drive. I was sleeping in a parking lot when they got me, and I'm not driving now. I don't even have a car in my possession. And as far as alcohol laws and things like that, I understand. I've held a bartender's license in the past. My bartending history is spotty. What with the pandemic, I'm just trying to take any job I can get, anyone that will hire me. And I've been a bartender in the past. I understand that, monitoring other people's intoxication and cutting other people off is very important. Unfortunately, the place I got my DUI, I didn't do that for myself. I understand that. I understand the consequences for me personally. I don't understand why that's going to reflect badly on my profession. There are a lot of bartenders that either don't drink or don't drive. We follow the laws. We know what to do. We have to take care of safety. So I'm not sure why my personal mistake is relevant to my professional experience. As far as the resisting charge, I was actually driving a drunk patron home, and I got pulled over for a technicality on my license plate or something. And I didn't try to resist. She was being a jerk. They let her walk blackout drunk off into the night while they arrested me. I wasn't resisting. I didn't have my license on me at the time. I was working as a security guard, and I drove a drunk patron home, or I was trying to drive her home. And that's the origin of that. And it was dropped. I walked into court and they said, "Oh, it's you. That's dropped." The minute I walked in.
I don't have any further questions, Mr. Fletcher.
Thank you, Captain Donahue. Members of the committee, any questions from any members of the committee? Alder Carter.
Yes, thank you. Veronica, even those items were dropped, can you explain why they weren't on your application, considering we had to bring it up?
Well, as far as the obstruction charge, it's not on my application because I wasn't charged. I got a ticket, and the minute I showed up in court, they said this is dismissed. They gave me all my money back for bail. I literally paid nothing, so I wouldn't have listed it. And as far as the other charge for possession, I took an Alford plea. That was planted on me. I was the sober driver, and I was driving, and I was sober. That's why they planted stuff on me. I was driving 2 other drunk people home. They breathalyzed us all. Those guys were 0.09. I was 0.04. And I was driving them home. We were out of town. We were in a very small town in Berlin, Wisconsin. And you can't see me, but I have green hair. My friends had very bushy beards, and one of them was wearing a Rasta knit cap. And we were in Berlin, Wisconsin. And all of a sudden, they arrested me on a scrap of paper. And what showed up in the police report was not what they arrested me for. And I took an Alford plea for that. And I guess I should have listed that. That's my mistake. I keep forgetting about that because it doesn't really affect me once I explain what happened in that circumstance. I take full responsibility for my DUI.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Carter. Any other questions from members of the committee?
Mr. Fletcher, if I could just clarify something. So
thank you.
I want to make sure that it was just the resisting charge that was not on the application. So the casual possession, the OWI, and the possession that was just discussed, those were all listed on the application, just to be clear.
Thank you for the clarification, Captain Donahue. Members of the committee, are there further questions? Seeing none, is there a motion that someone would like to make as regards to this application?
Move approval.
Ms. Westra moves. There's a second from Mr. Kano Espina. Discussion. Then all those in favor signify so by remaining silent. Those who oppose, please raise your hands in the chat. Seeing none approved, seeing none opposed, the application is approved. Veronica, thank you very much for your time this evening. And Chair Donnelly, the gavel is all yours again.
Thank you, Vice Chair Fletcher. So next up, item 3, operator license application for Shannon Schmelzer. Do we have Shannon here?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Shannon accidentally registered on a non-existent item, but they are here.
Sorry.
Okay, no worries. Captain Donahue, can you set the stage for us? And Shannon, we will have questions for you after that.
Okay.
So similarly, with the application, there's a background investigation done, and your background investigation revealed a felony charge for 4th offense OWI within 5 years. That was in 2014, and OWI in 2003, 2007, and 2010. And that fits guideline number 1, which states, provided the circumstance of the offense substantially relate to the circumstances of the job or licensed activity, any person convicted of a felony unless duly pardoned, does not qualify for an operator's license. So I guess the main question that I would have is just, when giving a license for someone to serve alcohol, the concern is if you have had some missteps in the past as it relates to OWIs and consumption of alcohol, just how that would reflect or influence your decision making when serving alcohol to others.
Are you ready for me? Sorry.
Yes, indeed.
Okay. The first two, I was definitely an alcoholic. I grew up with a father that was an alcoholic. After that, I went to our women's shelter or meetings and everything in AA, and I've been sober probably since, I say 2010, give or take. And the last two, I relapsed and was stupid and drove.
Can you just speak to kind of decision making and the big question is if you were put in a position where you had to serve alcohol to someone who was obviously intoxicated or obviously going to be operating a motor vehicle, just decisions and
got it.
Decisions.
Yeah, in the past, just in general, working in hospitality, I've been able to read people pretty well. I either try to offer a cab or a taxi or so on and so forth, or even a room with the hotels that I work at. I don't want anybody's life at risk, hence to the mistakes that I've made as well. I just try and do what's best for others. And if we have to tell them no for the next drink or beer, I have no problem doing that.
Thank you for that. Congrats on your sobriety, Mr. Fletcher. I have no further questions.
Thank you.
That'll be Mr. Donnelly. No, not me. But thank you.
I'm sorry. Yes, I'm sorry, Chair.
You've got an awful lot of people getting your name wrong in the bank, so you're still in the black.
I'm still looking at that same little square in the bottom right.
All right. Committee, what questions do you have for the applicant? All right. In that case, Alder Revere.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And so this is a question to the applicant. Thanks for being with us. And I too want to congratulate you on your sobriety.
Thank you.
Because you unfortunately are a convicted felon in an offense that arguably is substantially related to the license that you're here before us on, we are required by state statute to probe you a little. Please don't take it personally.
You're fine.
Thank you. So one of the ways that we can help overcome this statutory presumption is to talk about a little more your rehabilitation, if you will, your AODA treatment, your compliance with the driver safety plan that was ordered by the court, I'm sure multiple times. And maybe if you were under, I don't know if you ever were under Wisconsin Department of Correction supervision, but could have been ordered by an agent if you were placed on paper for the fourth OWI. Could you speak to that all generally, maybe beginning with what's your driving status with the DMV?
It is current. I haven't had a breathalyzer in my car since the fourth one, about 4.5 years ago. I have been on house arrest and I have never failed a breathalyzer in my car at all. And I've always had that registered. Rude awakening. My family definitely doesn't let me down on it. And I think about it a lot with everything that I've done. The beginning, I went to UW on Park Street for recovery for a couple of different meetings. And then the recent one, I started going to ARC. And I actually went back there the second time just because I was in a position the last 2 years, if not more, kind of depression. So I reached out to them again and I was able to go in there for about a year or so. And then I I think that was it off the top of my head.
Great. So to clarify, it sounds like for maybe some time now you have been compliant with the driver safety plan and the assessments and the treatment as ordered, and you have full driving privileges in the state.
Yes.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you addressed my questions very well. Appreciate it.
Okay. My pleasure.
Good luck with your continued recovery here.
Thank you. It's been rough, but one day at a time. That's all we can do.
Thank you. And Chairperson, I'm sorry. I do see there's a hand raised. I was going to make a motion, but I won't do that. Nice.
Thank you, Alder Verveer. Mr. Cano-Espina.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask you a question regarding your recovery. And do you feel that you are in a position to be safe distributing alcohol? And you're talking about your depression. Is this going to be something that you're talking to a sponsor, or you're talking to other people to help you make sure that you are able to do this job and it's not going to harm you?
Yes, absolutely. I have talked to a psychiatrist. I also have support with my work, which is really nice. They've been there for the past 3 years supporting everything. And if I have any issues, I just go straight to them. Or if I don't feel comfortable about serving anything, they respect that. The depression's more of like billing and payments and paying my bills more than anything. And I try and work overtime if possible in order to keep that up. There's 2 times of the year when my dad passed away and then his birthday that I get kind of depressed, but I just reach out to people as much as I can. I still keep in touch with Nakara. I always feel like I say it wrong at ARC, and I do still go to AA. And personally, I've reached out to people when they come to me about having a drinking problem. I'm honest with them. And I said, if you ever need to talk or want, support or anything or put you in the right direction, I'm more than happy to help with that. That's just kind of who I've been ever since I've been going through recovery myself.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing, and thank you. And good luck in your recovery. Keep doing what you need to do. I'm okay with seconding or making a motion, Alder Verveer.
Well, I'll move to either grant or to second that motion then.
Hear Alder Verveer's motion and a second from Mr. Cano-Espina to grant the operator's license for item 3. Any discussion? Hearing none, would anyone like to call for a roll call vote? Seeing no such requests, motion on item 3 passes. Next up is item 7, entity reorganization for Ito Japanese Restaurant. Ms. Har, do we have an interpreter here for this item?
We do. Shuwen Lee should be, I think, on this call.
Will you please?
Yes, this is Shuwen.
Will you swear the interpreter in, please, Ms. Har?
Oh, sure. I'm sorry. Shuwen, if you could please raise your right hand. Do you affirm that you will interpret from English to Mandarin and from Mandarin to English to the best of your ability?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. All right. So, and do we have the applicant here for this item? Should I check that before?
Yes.
Okay. Can you please tell us what it is you are here to apply for today?
您好，请问你能不能讲一下今天来这儿的原因？
是这样子的，因为我之前的就是说我以前是这个公司是那个 partner 的嘛，然后他已经把所有的东西都转让给我了。他那个酒牌以前挂他的名字，我现在要把这个酒牌换成我的名字。
Yeah, what happened was this person used to be a partner of my entity, and they transferred everything to me. So I want to make sure, including lessons, I want to make sure I will be the member or the officer.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Committee, what questions do you have for the applicant? if I'm understanding right from what's on our agenda, the application is to add one new officer and remove one officer. Is that correct?
我根据你的申请，好像你的这个申请要求的是添加一个新的这个 officer 这负责人，同时呢也要把另外一个人要去掉，是这样吗？
对，直接把他的名字去掉，就是换成我 change my name， 就是 move person， yeah.
Okay, it is about removing this person's name and then change it to me.
So were you previously an officer of this corporation?
那您之前是不是就已经是这个你们叫 officer 这个负责人了？
对，以前就是说我也有股份在那，现在就是说我本来就是，只是说现在他把他的那一份也转给我，那就是现在所有上法律上所有东西都是我的。
Yes, I used to have only a share of my business, but now this person is willing to transfer everything under my name.
Prior to this transfer, what was the exact nature of your role in the organization?
那在这个换你这个职位之前，那你原来是做你的角色是什么？你的这个职位，你的这个职务是干什么呢？
我一直都是这家餐馆的 owner， 之前他是我的 partner， 他也占50%，我占50%。现在他那个一下，然后呢，就是餐馆他因为不怎么赚钱，他就把他全部就是转让到我这边，就是我一直都是 everything 都是什么事都是我一直都在这家餐馆 for so many years.
Okay. I have been the owner the whole time, but this person, he used to own 50% of the business and I own the other 50%. But now this person is willing to give everything to me. But again, I have been the sole owner for all these years.
So prior to now, is it correct that you owned a 50% share, but were not an officer in the corporation?
那是不是你的意思就是说，在这之前，在你申请之前，你原来是因为你刚刚说有50%的这个股份，那你原来的你的职位不应该叫做 officer， 你原来从来也不是 officer， 对吗？
Officer 这什么意思呢？
So what do you mean by officer?
Assistant City Attorney Brist, can you assist?
Well, an officer of a corporation is the president, vice president, secretary, or treasurer. Are we talking about an LLC here?
这是另外一个人给你解释一下，这是什么叫做 officer？officer 呢，就是如果对公司来说，就是指的是这个
Yes, we are.
Yeah, let me. Sorry, I was just interpreting what you just mentioned early on. Before you continue, would that be okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. 就是他刚你的问题是说，到底什么叫做 officer？ 因为他这样问你。现在有另外一个像律师一类的吧，他是给你解释什么叫 officer 呢？就包括如果是一家公司的话，这家公司的这个主席、副主席，或者是管财务的，这都是属于 officer。等他还没说完，等他接着说，可以。
In a limited liability company, which I believe is your structure, the title is member, or there is a managing member.
那因为你的这个餐馆呢是属于叫 LLC 对不对？责任有限公司这一类的公司，所以对你们这一类的这种企业形式的话，那就是这个 officer 呢，就是指的是比如说是管理人员。这 managing officer， 这就是我们现在平常讲的这个 officer。
那就是说我一直以来都是，但是当初就是说这个酒牌我挂了他的名字，没有写我的名字在上面，只挂他的名字。
Oh, okay. Then I guess again, like I said, I have been the owner the whole time. But prior to today, prior to this application, that person he his name was on our license, but now I'm just requesting to have my name on the license.
Okay, that's the agent whose name is on the license, and the limited liability company is the holder of the license. What we're wondering basically is whether or not a majority of the limited liability company is being transferred here. And it sounds like the question really is who is running the establishment, and who is the managing partner of or managing member of the limited liability company.
对，所以这个有点混淆了，就是因为对你这个 LLC 这样的这个有责任有限公司，我们其实现在主要想问的就是，到底谁是来负责，谁是来主管，谁是这个管理运营的
？OK， 他一直是这种 license， 所有的外围，他以前所有的 license 这些东西名字都挂他名字的。我在餐馆就是负责这样子营业的。就是说，所有餐馆里面的买卖什么东西，这种的东西我管，但是他外面 license 所有的名字以前都挂他名字的。
Okay. Yeah, just to be clear, for the restaurant, this person has always been, his name or her name has always been on our license. But then I am the one who is running our business.
Mr. Chairman, does that answer your question?
I believe it does.
All right, thank you.
Committee members, what questions do you have for the applicant?
Can I make a motion?
You may.
Move approval.
Oh, Chair, Mr. Ospina had his hand up.
We have a motion to approve from Ms. Westra and I believe a second from Mr. Grady. Okay, Mr. Cano Espina, did you have a question or were you? Okay.
Well, I put my hand out to make a motion, so sorry. I'm good.
I have a question for Assistant City Attorney Brest. So someone's status as an officer of a corporation, is that a matter of
public record?
Yes.
Well, for a corporation, it definitely is because there's an annual report that's made. I believe for a limited liability company, this Department of Financial Institutions may have that listed as the person who's the managing entity, but I'm not sure. I know they list the agent. So what we're talking about here is something that appears to have been 50-50. And the question is whether or not they should be making an application for a new license. That's not law. That's your policy, I believe.
Of course. And I believe a significant factor there would be whether, it seems that the two most likely possibilities are either that the applicant was indeed previously a member of the LLC, but that had not been included on the original ALRC application. And so what this should be is a case of there being two officers and one officer being removed. The other possibility is that the applicant was not originally an officer and has become one more recently. Is there a mechanism by which we could determine that?
Well, limited liability companies don't really have what we would term officers. They have a person who's like the managing member.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess what we could do is if we set this down farther on the agenda, I can look on the records of the Department of Financial Institutions that I can find out.
Well, we do have a motion and a second. Mr. Cano Espina and then Ms. Reese.
I just don't have any reason to not trust that what she's saying is correct. And she's
No,
saying,
it's just it's your policy. It's not law that they can't transfer the entity ownership in this manner, but it's been your policy that if a majority is being transferred, you want a new application. So
but based on the testimony from this person, I believe that she's saying that she has been the owner for a long time. So I'm saying that I'm trusting what she's saying. I don't have any other information. That's why I'm supporting the.
Okay, well, you're the policymaker. I'm just trying to assist you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cano-Espina. Ms. Reese.
I was just gonna, I did pull it up on the DFI website and it just lists a registered agent. So that doesn't necessarily, in City Attorney Brisk can look, but it doesn't necessarily answer the question.
Correct.
But I also agree with Mr. Cano-Espina.
Excellent. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Alder Verveer. Alder Verveer and then Captain Donahue.
Thank you, Chairperson Donnelly. Just to perhaps assist with the questioning here, I was able to review the original alcohol license application for this LLC, which the ALRC and Common Council granted in 2017. And on that original application, it does state that indeed this applicant is listed at the time in 2017 as one of two members of the LLC. I'm looking at question 22 on the original application, again from about 4 years ago. And it does state that the two individuals that are named in this current application that's before us are the two members of the LLC. And that LLC was created on May 1st, 2017, according to the application filed with the city clerk.
Excellent. So this appears to be a bookkeeping issue on our part and not on the applicant's.
Yes, and I would just reinforce that, as some of you longtime members of the committee know, I've been one that's been a stickler because we've been burned a few times by change of officers, entity reorganizations. We need to have a more thorough vetting in terms of an official new application and the public notice requirements that come with that. But I'll just state here that I'm personally comfortable with this and agree with Attorney Brisk that it's really been a policy issue for us. Perhaps the newer members might not realize that it really is our discretion if we insist on a new application or not. And I'm very comfortable supporting the motion and not requiring the applicant to go through a new application process.
Excellent. Thank you, Alder Verveer. Captain Donahue.
It may be a bit late. I was just going to suggest that we pause so that the interpreter could relay the conversation that was going on.
Sure.
Given that we're I'm fine with that. I would like to make it clear these were deliberations of the committee and not questions for the applicant. So it would be completely appropriate. Please convey what the discussion was, but make it clear that there was no question or request for additional information.
Okay, I think I can just go ahead and then mainly summarize the key point that you guys just discussed to this applicant. 你好，他们就是刚刚他们是几个人自己在商讨，其实没有人给你提出你的问题，你不需要回答任何问题。他们就是有人在他们之间就是在讨论过程中呢，有一个那个工作人员呢就提议，还是让你知道他们在大概讨论些什么。但是他们刚刚讨论的很多内容，我给你总结一下吧，大概就是集中在就是你刚刚就是你之前你提出的问题，就是什么叫做 officer 的问题，就是这个他就说是他们是政策上就是不是你的问题，就是在政策上他们也很难判定，就是因为取决于这个公司这个企业的性质，像你是 LLC， 刚刚他讲的是这个 officer 呢就指的是 managing member， 那就是指的负责人，所以按照这种情况下，你就是应该就是一直是属于这个 officer 了。但是呢，就是他们又后来翻到你的这个2017年的这个在申请的那个你的这个当时申请资料上也显示说，好像你们两个人的名字当时也都在，所以
对，我 的是有我名字在上面，可是因为太久了，我也没有 copy 这个东西，我不知道。但是我记得我有名字，但是我因为它上面的 alcohol 我不知道需要2个人名字，所以我就报了他的名字。所以就是一家餐馆，是一个 small 餐馆，所以说什么事情我自己基本都 take care 了，所以说我也不知道怎么说。
OK， 行，我就跟你是，so I will just continue finishing interpreting what you guys just discussed early on, and then I will interpret what she mentioned early on. Back to you. 意思就是大家都在商讨，就是说这个是他们政策上的问题，没有人在质疑你，也没有人跟你需要你回答问题，就是他们自己讨论这种事情该怎么处理。那现在就是我把你刚刚讲的那句话翻译给他们就行，好吗？
好的。
So early on, the applicant just mentioned during my interpretation process, and she was saying, yes, it has been so long. And early on, you mentioned in 2017 we applied for the license. I don't even remember, but again, like I said, I thought maybe I was the only one who was on that license, or that person was the only one. But again, I just want to emphasize that this restaurant is so small, and I have been able to take care of it, to run it all on my own.
Yeah, and Alder Verveer's research has revealed that everything was in order all along, and this was merely an error on our part. So in light of that, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, is there any opposition to recording a unanimous vote in favor of granting this application? I see no request for a roll call vote, so item 7 is granted.
你好，就是刚刚说他们这个讨论一下说，因为就刚刚那个 officer 这各种名字之类的，你没有问题，就是他们可能是他们自己的系统里面可能他们有点错误，但是不影响他们现在已经全体通过，就是批准你的申请。
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good night. Ms. Hard, do we also have a translator here for item 10?
We do. Julio Garcia, I believe, should be here.
Okay. Does anyone have any concerns about taking that item up next? All right, hearing none. Let's skip ahead to item 10, please. So do we have the applicant here as well?
Yeah, we should have Patricia.
Yes.
Yeah, we are here.
Ms. Har, will you please swear in the translator?
Julio, if you could please raise your right hand. Do you affirm that you will interpret from English to Spanish and from Spanish to English to the best of your ability?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Ms. Sanchez, can you please describe the business you would like to get a license for?
Señora Sánchez, ¿podría describirnos el negocio para el que quiere la licencia de alcohol?
Sí, buenas tardes. Es un restaurante mexicano con taquería y para preparar bebidas alcohólicas. Venta de cerveza.
It's a Mexican restaurant, a taqueria, and we are going to be preparing alcoholic beverages and beer.
Thank you very much. Committee, what questions do you have for the applicant?
¿Qué preguntas tienen para el
Alder Carter?
Yes, I have a couple questions. First one, Patricia, did you purchase this building or are you leasing it?
Yo tengo un par de preguntas. Patricia, ¿usted compró este edificio o lo está rentando?
Lo estoy rentando y el dueño está aquí presente conmigo. Okay.
No, go ahead.
Es la vieja taberna que ha estado aquí desde 1976 y antes era vendían alcohol, entonces queremos continuar con la licencia, pero ahora bajo la taquería.
Okay. I'm leasing it, and the previous owner is here. The owner is here with me. It's the tavern that has been operating here since 1976, and it had a license, an alcohol license, and we would like to continue with the taqueria and the license.
Okay, I'm very familiar with the farm, and most of us are who live on the south side. My question to you is that it looks like the farm has always been a bar, and one of the things that you said is that you wanted to make alcoholic drinks, I believe. So is this a bar that's going to have groceries in it? Is it a club that's having the groceries in it? Or is it truly a restaurant?
Sí, estoy muy familiarizada con el The Farm, por todas las personas que viven en esa zona están familiarizadas con él. Mi pregunta es, usted mencionó que iba a hacer bebidas alcohólicas. La pregunta es si va a ser un bar que va a vender verduras, va a ser un club o va a ser simplemente un restaurante que va a vender también verduras.
Restaurante.
A restaurant.
Okay. And how are you separating the restaurant from the grocery store?
¿Y de qué manera va a separar la parte del restaurante de la sección de comestibles?
Oh, tenemos un área para las mesas para comer.
We have an area with tables to it.
Do patrons have to come through the grocery store to get to the restaurant area?
¿Los clientes tienen que atravesar la tienda de comestibles para llegar a la zona del restaurante?
No.
No.
That's all my questions for now. I will circle back.
Esas son todas las preguntas que tengo.
Thank you, Alder Carter. Committee members, what other questions do you have for the applicant? Mr. Cano Espina.
Thank you. So a quick question about, so is this a restaurant and a grocery store? So you're selling also things for people to buy and take home other than food?
Yo tengo una pregunta. Entonces es un restaurante con una tienda de comestibles, o sea, también está vendiendo cosas para que la gente se lleve a casa y las prepare.
Es deli. Restaurant deli.
It's a restaurant and deli.
So you're not going to be selling chips and Coca-Cola and maybe things to clean the toilet or things like that. It's only a restaurant, deli, taqueria.
Okay, so you're not going to be selling like Cokes and... no va a estar vendiendo patatas fritas, Coca-Colas, productos de limpieza, entonces solo un restaurante, deli y taquería.
Chips and Coca.
Perdón, dijo Coca-Cola sí.
Sí, y bebidas Coca.
Yeah,
Refrescos, jugo, refresco, lo que acompaña con su comida.
We will be selling Coke, but just to accompany food, the same as beer or juices.
So the map that we have says that you have a place that says fruit and vegetables, and that there is some, I don't know, something that says lines. So, and in the application, it says restaurant and it says grocery store. So it says food, groceries, and beverage.
En el mapa que nos dio aparece una zona en el mapa que nos dio aparece una zona en la que dice que hay frutas y verduras. En otra parte pone como filas y la solicitud que usted hizo era para restaurante y tienda de comestibles.
Hello.
Hola, Patricia, ¿está ahí?
Yeah. Sí, aquí está para explicarlo mejor el dueño del edificio.
No. Go ahead, interpret.
The owner of the building is here to explain it better.
No, I want to ask the questions of the applicant, not the owner of the business.
No, yo le quiero hacer las preguntas al solicitante, no al dueño del edificio.
You're going to make it a restaurant and deli only.
that the city won't let you have?
Oh, es que la aplicación se hizo con la grocery y todo, pero la ciudad ahorita está, nada más nos ha dado el permiso para el restaurante y el deli.
Okay. The application was done for the grocery and restaurant, but the city has only given us the permit for the deli and the restaurant.
So you will be running the restaurant, and the previous owner is going to do what?
Entonces usted va a ser la encargada del restaurante y el dueño anterior, ¿cuál va a ser su función?
Oh, no, aquí está corriendo el restaurante y yo soy la persona que está corriendo el restaurante. Pero lo que me preguntaban que el dueño del edificio, si lo rentaba o era mío, la respuesta era que el dueño del edificio está aquí con nosotros también presente, apoyando para el meeting. ¿Julio?
Yeah, sí, perdón, pensé que se había cortado.
No.
I will be running the restaurant. I just mentioned that the owner was here with me just to support my application, but I will be the one running everything.
Okay, so if he's just supporting, I will appreciate that the answers are from you, Patricia, and not him kind of feeding you answers, because it makes me worried that he's feeding you answers. So I want to understand your business and make sure that it's you who is answering the questions.
Sí. Una cosa, lo que queremos saber son las respuestas de usted, que es la que va a llevar el negocio, y me está preocupando el escucharle a él, al dueño, por detrás de usted, dándole la respuesta a las preguntas, porque nosotros lo que queremos es entender cuál es la naturaleza de su negocio.
Okay.
So, Patricia, you're going to have a taqueria restaurant, no selling fruits, no selling vegetables, no selling other stuff?
Entonces, Patricia, usted va a tener una taquería y un restaurante y no va a estar vendiendo ningún tipo de verduras ni otro tipo de comida.
Es correcto.
Okay.
Correct.
And your hours of operation are, Patricia?
¿En qué horas va a estar abierto el restaurante?
8 de la mañana, 9 de la noche.
From 8 in the morning till 9 at night.
Every day?
¿Todos los días?
Sí.
Yes.
And what is your capacity?
¿Cuál es la capacidad del restaurante?
20 personas.
20 people.
So can you tell me what this picture that says lines and boots and promos, what is that? Like, that's confusing me.
¿Puede explicarme el dibujo que tenemos con el mapa de la tienda que habla de filas, aparece como lines en inglés, como filas y promos y como booths, pequeñas mesas apartadas? ¿Me puede explicar cómo va a funcionar eso?
Sí, lo que pasa es que así iba a ser inicialmente, pero estamos revisando con la ciudad para tener el grocery. Ahorita solamente nos han aceptado la taquería. Entonces eso era la idea inicialmente. Los booths son los donde la gente ahorita puede tomar sus alimentos.
Okay, the booths are the places where people can eat now. The thing is, like, initially we were asking the city for a permit to have like the grocery and the restaurant, but we have not still been approved for that.
Okay, so now I'm understanding better. So your initial concept was to have a grocery store with a little taqueria inside of it. But right now you're just asking to get the taqueria approved to be able to sell alcohol and beer.
Entonces creo que lo entiende mejor. Entonces usted al principio tenía pensado tener su tienda de comestibles con una pequeña taquería dentro, pero ahora solo está pidiendo el permiso para poder abrir la taquería.
Sí.
Yes.
Okay.
Y con carry out, que puedan llevar.
Okay.
Y también with food, just to carry out also.
Okay, thank you so much.
Gracias.
Any further
Gracias.
questions, Mr. Cano Espina? Okay, thank you. Alder Carter.
Okay, thank you. My only concern with this map of your restaurant is that wherever the entrance is, and I see two possible places for the entrance, it does look like if you ever get approved for the grocery store, you'll have people shopping around people that are trying to enjoy their meal in the restaurant.
Mi única preocupación con esto, y viendo el mapa que tiene, es que si en algún momento hay dos lugares para entrar. Entonces, si en algún momento es aprobada para la tienda de comestibles, lo que veo es que va a haber gente comprando, haciendo la compra, mientras el resto de personas están intentando disfrutar de la comida.
Lo que pasa es que las mesas estarían aparte de las líneas. Tendría esa parte aislada para los que están comiendo en el lugar.
Okay. The tables would be separate from the... When she says lines, I believe she says aisles for the store. Cuando dice líneas se refiere a las... como en un supermercado.
Ajá, a la línea donde está el producto.
Yeah. When lines refers to aisles, as in a supermarket.
So aisles?
Yeah, aisles. Yeah.
Okay.
And that would be separated from the... If we have that, the tables would be separated from the aisles for purchasing.
Okay. The only reason why I say that is for someone who eats out a lot. Well, not now because it's COVID, but eats out a lot, I would be a little bit taken back if I'm eating at a booth and someone's, going from cart to aisle with their cart, and I'm trying to enjoy a meal. The other thing is I wanted to ask about the security plan for this location.
Lo único, mi pregunta está relacionado como alguien que soy que come mucho afuera. Está pensando que para mí sería algo muy incómodo el estar comiendo mientras hay personas entrando y saliendo de los pasillos para hacer la compra. Y la otra pregunta que tendría es sobre el plan de seguridad.
Actualmente ya tenemos cámaras de seguridad y se tomó el curso para medir el nivel de alcohol que puede tomar cada persona. Entonces, realmente no es un restaurante para quedarse mucho tiempo, solamente es llegar, compras tus tacos y la mayoría de la gente se los lleva a casa. O si no, nada más es como comes tus tacos y te vas, no es para quedarse en el lugar por más de media hora. Es un como tipo fast food, pudiera ser.
Okay. We have already installed security cameras in the building, and we have already taken a class that measures the level of alcohol that people can drink. It's not a place where people are going to stay very long. It's mostly people just take their food, and most of them just take it home to eat, or they just eat it in their fast. It's kind of more an idea of fast food.
Okay, and do you have a working, how long will you keep your tapes from the camera?
¿Cuánto tiempo va a guardar la grabación de las cámaras de seguridad?
30 días.
30 days.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Carter. Committee members, what additional questions do you have for the applicant? Alder Carter, and then Captain Donahue.
I'll let Captain Donahue go first because I was going to do a motion.
By all means.
Go ahead, Captain Donahue.
Thank you, Alder. Just a quick question. So I reached out to Captain Hansen, the captain of the South Police District, and he hadn't heard from the applicant. I'm just curious if they tried to reach him at all.
Tengo una pregunta rápida que hacer. Hablé con el capitán Hanson, que es el del Distrito Sur, y este capitán no ha oído nada de la solicitante. ¿Ha intentado usted ponerse en contacto con la policía, con el capitán Hanson?
Sí, de hecho hasta dejé mensaje de voz y llamé más de una ocasión.
Yes, I even left a voicemail and I called more than once.
Okay. So something that Mr. Cano Espina brought up is at the back of my mind. What is the involvement? And I apologize if this was already answered. What's the involvement of the owner going to be moving forward?
Una cosa que mencionó antes el señor Cano Espina, ¿de qué manera está involucrado el dueño?
No, la dueña de la taquería soy yo. Solamente mencionaba el dueño del edificio porque la primera pregunta fue si el edificio era mío o lo estaba rentando. Pero yo soy la dueña del establecimiento, bueno, de la taquería como tal.
I will be the owner of the taqueria, and I just mentioned the owner because they were talking about that before when they were asking if I was leasing or owning the place.
So the owner of the property is not going to have any day-to-day runnings or not going to be running the business at all day-to-day operations.
Entonces el dueño del edificio no se va a involucrar de manera diaria en el negocio de ninguna manera, en cómo se va a llevar el negocio.
No, él no va a estar involucrado en cómo se llevará el negocio.
No, he won't be involved in the business at all.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Cano Espina.
Just a quick question to see if I get the idea of the business correctly. So do you know the Carnicería La Rosita en Monona?
Just a quick question. Una pregunta rápida solo para ver si entiendo bien cómo va a ser el modelo de negocio. ¿Conoce la Rosita que está en Monona?
Sí.
So is that kind of what you're trying to do? I'm sorry, I answer before he translated. Sorry.
I understand.
Entonces, ¿es eso lo que más o menos es algo así lo que quiere hacer?
Es correcto.
Correct.
But right now, you're just doing the restaurant part, and whenever you get the grocery permit, that's what you're trying to do at that time.
Entonces, ahora mismo solo va a tener la taquería, pero cuando le den el permiso para la tienda de comestibles, entonces cuando añadirá esa parte.
Es correcto también.
Correct.
Okay, thank you so much. Now I understand that. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Gracias, ahora lo entiendo mejor.
Thank you, Mr. Cano Espina. Are there any further questions? Seeing none, Alder Carter, would you care to make a motion?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve it. I do have one condition.
And that is?
And the condition is that within the next 14 days that Patricia makes contact with Captain Hansen.
Voy a hacer la moción para aprobarlo solo con una condición, que en los próximos 14 días Patricia se ponga en contacto con el capitán Hanson.
Okay. So we have a motion from Alder Carter and a second from Mr. Cano Espina. Any discussion of this motion? Hearing none, would anyone like to call for a roll call vote? I see no such requests. So item 10, new license for Patricia's Supermarket is approved unanimously.
Se ha aprobado por unanimidad el aprobar el número 10 de la agenda.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you. All right, next item. Item 8, new license for Hy-Vee Wine and Spirits at 7475 Mineral Point Road. Do we have someone from this applicant here before us? Ms. Reese?
I was wondering if one of the alders could give a quick explanation of why this is back, just for the public record.
A fine question indeed. Thank you, Ms. Reese. Would any of our alder members be willing to field that one? Alder Carter. Alder Carter, you are muted.
I was just saying that I can, or Alder Skidmore, since it was in his area, if he wants to.
I'm not seeing his hand, so if you're willing to take it, that would be great.
His hand is now up.
Oh,
so.
now it is. Oh,
Yep.
Thank you. Alder Skidmore.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alder Carter.
Thank you. I recall at the discussion of the council meeting was halted because there were questions of police staff, and there was nobody present at the meeting to take those questions. Alder Carter or Alder Verveer, is that your recollection?
Yes, that was one of the questions that we had, and I don't know if Captain Donahue ran a report on calls of service in this area, but that was one of the questions that came up at the council meeting. And because there were other questions, the council decided to re-refer this back to ALRC, where it should be properly vetted.
Excellent. Thank you, Alders Skidmore and Carter. Ms. Reese, has the question been answered to your satisfaction?
Yes, unless Alder Verveer has anything to say because he raised his hand too.
Excellent. Alder Verveer.
Thank you, and thanks for the question. It's obviously an excellent one. I'll simply add that Alderperson Skidmore, as the alder of the district, did propose to the Common Council at our last meeting that we add the somewhat standard Class A conditions relating to product size to this license. And the representatives of the applicant that were present at the Common Council meeting objected to those conditions. And as such, then a motion was made, which was unanimously approved by the council to, as was already stated, refer this back to the ALRC for further deliberations, especially on the topic of conditions, which again, at the time, the applicant very much objected to.
Thank you, Alder Verveer.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we have Mr. Grady.
Am I to understand that they want to be able to sell airport bottles or aircraft bottles and small quantities of beer, and that they look at that as being okay? Someone could answer that for me. I don't know. It just seems kind of odd that they would want to do that.
Alder Skidmore.
Yes. I was going to call you Alder Grady. Patrick, thank you. And I'm sorry. But I think you're correct. There continues to be significant opposition in the immediate neighborhood, the Tamarack neighborhood in particular, for the sale of the small bottles, as well as the proliferation of more Class A liquor outlets in this area. And I asked Alder Verveer to prepare the 5 amendments, and these are standard amendments. And I feel that if this license would be approved, that these conditions would be appropriate. And they're the 4 standard conditions, but I also requested adding another one to say that we could review the status of their operation, see how it's working in 6 months, to see if it's possible or appropriate to remove those conditions. I personally do not feel that restricting the sale of these very small, inexpensive bottles would be a detriment to their business plan. That's not for me to say, but I think that it would be helpful for the neighborhood. That is very, very concerned, rightly concerned over alcohol in this area. So that's the rationale for the 5 conditions. And Patrick, thank you for the question.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Alder Skidmore and Mr. Grady. So, committee, we have an item that we previously approved. It's been referred back to us with a request to approve it, but with conditions.
Here, we do have 3 people registered wishing to speak on this item.
Okay, well, let's go ahead with that then. Please bring up the first one. And after the registrants speak and we ask questions for them, then we can carry on with deliberations.
The first one I have is Ron Polistrini out of Chicago, Illinois, representing Mark Madison, LLC, and Support, wishing to speak.
All right. I'll just remind Ron and all the other guests here that we have a limit of 3 minutes for our public comment, though committee members may choose to ask you additional questions after that, which won't come out of your time.
I believe Attorney Genevieve Zillavi has her hand up. I don't know if you've noticed.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Alder Carter. Assistant City Attorney Zillavi, do you have a question at this time?
Just a comment. I just wanted to say that for similarly situated establishments in the area, you did not put conditions on, meaning Total Wine, which is at Westtown Mall, and Steve's Liquor on Junction. Those are the 2 that come to mind. So I just wanted you to be aware of that.
Excellent. Thank you. All right. Ron Polistrini.
Yep. Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay. I just want to thank the committee for allowing me to speak tonight. My name's Ron Polistrini. I'm with Mark Madison, LLC. We're the owners of the High Point Shopping Center, which contains the proposed location for the Hy-Vee Wine and Spirit store. I just want to take a minute to say that we're really excited to have Hy-Vee join the center. As you're aware, brick and mortar retail has taken a really large hit from online retailers over the last several years. Our former tenant in this position was Pier 1. They were a casualty of that trend. They filed bankruptcy and vacated the space last year. That vacancy sort of left us with an uphill battle to fill this 9,000 square foot hole that's right front and center from the shopping center here. And then the addition of COVID just kind of made matters worse for us. So we're pretty concerned that we're going to have this prominent anchor space sit empty and dark for a long period of time. There's just not a lot of 9,000 square foot tenants out in the market. There's a decreasing pool of retail tenants. So we're pretty concerned in that anchor vacancy would lead to further vacancy in the shopping center. So we're pretty fortunate that Hy-Vee came along on the heels of the Pier 1 bankruptcy. It's not only great timing with the Hy-Vee deal, but we couldn't ask for a better replacement tenant for Pier 1. I mean, Hy-Vee's an excellent operator. They're financially sound, and they're going to build a beautiful store here. Their presence is going to help bring new tenants to the center. In fact, we signed 2 new tenants since we signed the Hy-Vee deal. And on the topic of leasing, I just want to take a minute as well to dispel the rumors of this property being ripe for redevelopment. As owners, we're strongly committed to not just maintain, but to improve this property. We've been working diligently to extend our existing leases and to fill our vacancies. We've spent over $200,000 in the last 2 years repaving parking lots, upgrading the lighting to LED. We've got further plans to enhance the facade and landscaping as well. So just want to be clear, this is a long-term hold in our portfolio. We don't have any plans to redevelop the site. And I just want to wrap up again with saying how excited we are to have Hy-Vee join the center. I mean, not only is it going to greatly enhance our property and help our other tenants thrive within the center, but I think it's going to improve the surrounding neighborhood by filling this large unsightly vacancy with a really beautiful high-end store. Again, I just humbly ask that the committee approve this license, and I thank you for your time.
Excellent. Thank you for your comments. Committee, do you have any questions for this speaker? All right. Who do we have up next?
We have Peter Hosch from Des Moines, Iowa, representing Hy-Vee in Support, wishing to speak.
Excellent. Peter Peter Hash. Again, 3 minutes. Take it away.
Hello, my name is Pete Hash, 5820 West Town Parkway, West Des Moines, Iowa, 50265. I appreciate the opportunity to speak in front of the council or in front of the board. We went to Common Council a week ago, and some questions came up about the conditions that were proposed by Alder Skidmore. This is a project that we are really excited about, but it's a situation where we can't be put at a competitive disadvantage with the additional wine and spirit stores in the neighborhoods. It's something that is very integral to our business model, to have the single serve pick and pack beer and wine that are options for our customers. And then the airline bottles are the other question mark that I think is one of the conditions. That is an item that is, again, an item that from a sales perspective is pretty substantial to a retail outlet. And we just can't make this type of investment without having the full competitive level playing field that we've got with the other retailers within the area. I'm intimately familiar with this area. I understand Alder Skidmore's concerns relative to the number of licenses within the area, but this is not overly competitive. Our research shows that demand in this area is high, and for a high-end establishment such as ourselves, I think that the group has shared photos of what we propose to share with the community. It's something that will be matched only by a couple other competitors within the entire market. We're excited about the project, but if there are conditions imposed upon this license, we will not be able to move forward. I think I will probably yield my time to Casey Bonger, who can speak more to employment and the nature of the facility, the hours of operations, etc. But if we come out of this committee with conditions, we will not be moving forward with this project. And with that, I will answer any questions that you may have and yield my time to Casey Bonger.
Excellent. Thank you for your comments. Committee, what questions do you have for this speaker? Alder Carter. Alder Carter, you are muted.
Oh, for God's sake. Okay. Can you tell me what your security plan is for your building? Or your space, I should say.
And Casey may be able to speak to that a little bit better than myself, but when there was concerns raised, we did add additional security cameras to the project. We have our own security company or AV, audiovisual company, that is a subsidiary of Hy-Vee that installs all the cameras. I would say that, from a comparison perspective, it will be top notch. Our hours of operation will not be excessive. Casey may be able to speak a little bit better to the number of cameras, but we have register systems that are in place that can, verify age and amounts of alcohol that are being purchased by patrons. So we've experienced that at other locations within the Madison metro area, and we're able to accommodate any security measures that are required. And I think some of the questions that came up at council were regarding maybe incidents that happened within the area. And hopefully there's support tonight that can answer any questions that you or other alders may have regarding that situation.
But Casey's the one that can answer the security question.
The number of cameras, she can probably better answer that than myself.
Okay, I'll come back to Casey. You said that the airport bottles were a moneymaker for you. Can you explain why? Aren't they single serve?
They are single serve, but they are a new phenomenon that within the last 5-6 years have become a large seller for any wine and spirit store. Total Wine and More at the shopping center will have those as well. I'm sure Steve's has them as well. It's just it's a offering to the customer that we need to have to be competitive. And I understand that Holder Skidmore wanted to put a moratorium on or a 6-month review of the project, but without a clean license, we're not willing to make the investment. We can go elsewhere within our trade area and have more flexibility. So yes, it's a large seller for us. I wouldn't say it's in our top 10 by any means, but it's something that the customers want and expect. And if we can't offer all the services that other patrons or other providers are serving to the patrons, then we will move on to other opportunities.
Have you seen any customers in any of your other stores buy an airport bottle and then drink it in the parking lot?
I can't speak to that. We have security cameras. I'm not saying that hasn't happened, but I think that that's beyond my pay grade relative to the offerings that are allowed by law. I don't think that this is an area that has issues relative to abuse. I know the neighborhood. I did the project, our second Madison store at the Westgate Mall. It's a good area. Our wine and spirit store has high respect there. We haven't had any issues there. It's not too far away. I'm familiar with this area. I know Steve's. I know Total Wine and More. I don't think that there's any issues. I know that there's some apartment complexes and things like that, but it's not been a problem that we've seen in our parking lots. We don't have any incidents relative to insurance claims associated with that. The question always comes up about backing into patrons and things like that, and we don't have any major issues that are associated with that relative to our wine and spirit stores.
Okay, I'll wait for the other speakers. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Carter, Mr. Fletcher, and then Mr. Grady.
I think, Mr. Chair, I'll yield to Mr. Grady. He beat me to the punch in terms of putting his hand up.
Okay. Mr. Grady.
Alder Carter answered my question, so I thought I took my hand down, but evidently I didn't. Sorry.
No worries. Mr. Fletcher.
Mr. Husher, I just want to go back to something you raised on this issue of conditions. So are you taking the position that if the committee imposes any condition, any sort of conditions that you're saying that Hy-Vee would pull the plug, walk away, and that's it, including, I think this issue around, coming back to the committee 6 months from now, let's see how things are going, considering, the older of the district sort of concerns and the sorts of concerns that have been raised in the neighborhood?
Yeah, and I know that it sounds probably disrespectful to come at this position so forcefully, but we came through this commission earlier on with a clean license, and that's what went to Common Council. That's what we need to be competitive within the market. I understand that we would have the opportunity to have it reviewed in 6 months, but that's post-investment. The investment that we're making here is quite substantial. And if these conditions survive, which we will have no control over, it's just not worth it to us to make the investment within the market. We can go elsewhere and, be on the level playing field with the other operators within the area. So I know that it sounds like a very aggressive position for us to take, but that's the direction that we've been given by our operations team, that they need to be on a level playing field with the other operators within the market for us to make this type of investment within the community. We're excited about it. This is one of the first locations that we've done this level of service, not from a airline bottle or individual beer perspective, but level of service with wine tasting and classes and some charcuterie that we will be offering within this facility. It's a truly high-end experience that we want to bring to the Madison market to make us a point of emphasis within the community and within the industry as a whole. We understand that this sounds a bit aggressive by us. Again, I keep saying it that way, but we truly need to have all the sales opportunities at hand for us to make this investment in this market at this point in time.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate you addressing the question.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Fletcher. Mr. Grady.
Yeah, a question for the last gentleman. It appeared to me when I went by there the other day that you've already started construction there. Is that true?
We had actually started demolition in the space, and that's when we thought that we had a clean license going to the Common Council. We've stopped all work and will be withdrawing from the project if we cannot get a open license associated with this project.
Okay, my second question is, if you do get a clean license, when was this going to open?
I would assume that the construction process would be about 4 months. Casey maybe will answer that a little bit better than I, that this is her project, but usually these take about 4 months. I think that we had shared some photos of our Maplewood store. That was done a little bit faster. Maplewood, Minnesota, up in the Twin Cities. That was done a little bit faster. This one may actually become a little bit faster as well, but it's something that we want to open up as soon as possible.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Grady. Alder Carter.
Sideways, how good are you at eating crow, since you are so deliberate at being blunt?
I am good at eating crow. I get it from my wife all the time. So is there something specific that you want to ask me about?
No, I just said if this goes sideways, how good are you at eating crow? And you answered that question. My question to you is, I'm looking at your application. You said there was a site plan included. I don't see it. Was that included in the first one? You were talking about wine tasting areas. I'm looking for a site plan.
And it should have been included. If it was not, I can defer to Casey on that question. She would have been involved in preparing the application.
Okay. I'll wait for whoever else is representing you. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Carter. Committee members, what additional questions do you have for the speaker? Okay, who do we have up next?
Next, we have Casey Bonger out of Des Moines, Iowa, representing Hy-Vee in Sport, wishing to speak.
Oh, and before that, I'd like to remind the committee members that while, of course, applicants and speakers are welcome to use whatever terms they'd like, we have no concept of clean or dirty licenses, regardless of what conditions might be on them. All right, Casey Bonger, take it away.
All right. Thank you to the committee for reviewing this again this evening. Pete answered quite a few of the questions or items that I was going to discuss, but just kind of to go over again, just a summary of what this proposed Hy-Vee wine and spirits includes. So we would look to sell beer, hard liquor, wine. It would include a temperature controlled wine room, a humidor for cigars, tasting area for education classes and presentations, take and bake food items, salty snacks, and other non-alcoholic drinks for mixers or just to pick up for pop or whatever you choose. So this store would expect to hire approximately 15 employees. With this being a satellite location, we will always have 2 people working, and everyone will be 21 years of age or older. As Pete had mentioned, the investment in the improvements to this store would be approximately $1 million. So that's why we take this very seriously. We don't want to make this large of investment if we're going to be limited on what we can sell or the hours that we can sell. The hours that we are proposing or that we would like to operate are Monday through Saturday, 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Sunday, 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. There are, in regards to security cameras, there are 18 security cameras on the exterior and interior. So there's 3 on the exterior, 1 on the corner on the, it'd be the northeast corner of the building, shooting kind of behind the building, and then out in front. There'll be another camera on the corner of the building and then in front of the door. And then the rest of the security cameras are within this space. As Pete had mentioned, we did start demolition and put a hold on that until we get resolution on this liquor license. And he was correct in that it's about a 4-month construction time period. So we would be hopeful to open it in early summer. And that is all I have. I'm open for any questions.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Let's see, Mr. Fletcher and then Alder Carter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Casey, obviously there's been a lot of discussion about competitors in the area, similarly, situated stores. How do you, and you guys have done the some of the research on that too on your end clearly. How do your kind of hours of operation compare to those other liquor stores?
They're very comparable. I mean, I have them pulled up now, and while they may be an hour off, a day or two on the competitor side, it's very similar to what their hours are.
An hour off in terms of you're open an hour longer or you're open an hour shorter?
Well, so Total Wine is open from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. Monday through Saturday and 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. on Sunday. So that is exactly what we are proposing. Steve's is open 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. Monday through Saturday and 12 to 6 on Sundays.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Fletcher. Alder Carter.
Yes, Casey, can you tell me on your security cameras, how long do you keep the digital?
That I am not sure. I know we have to keep it for a certain amount of time, and maybe Pete knows the answer on that, but I do not know that answer.
Okay, you have 9,000 square feet and you only have 2 employees working at a time?
That's at a minimum. So that would be on the slow hours. That's the, I guess, least amount of employees that we would have working at one time.
And what would this
likely it would be?
Go ahead.
Yeah, more than likely during the busy hours, we would have more than that.
And what would be the slow time?
Right away in the morning, I would say, is the slow time. Over lunch hours may pick up, later in the day, nighttime. Definitely the weekends are busier.
Okay. come back. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Carter. Mr. Fletcher.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Casey, I think your colleague, Mr. Hosh, was kind of very candid in his words related to conditions on the license. I think I do want to ask you, perhaps, in terms of having seen some of the kind of feedback that members of your what would be kind of in your neighborhood, in your local area have provided to the committee for its consideration. And I know that this is a significant investment for Hy-Vee, and you're looking to operate kind of a high-end experience. But how do you kind of marry those two things up, or what would your response be to some of those neighbors and folks in that area who have raised I think thematic, what I'd call, concerns?
I mean, I think their concerns, I understand their concerns. It's already happening. I mean, today there's a Quick Trip just north of this site, that people can obtain those single serve cans or smaller bottles. So, I mean, I think with the higher end part of our store, I guess I just don't see it getting worse than it is today. If it's really even worse, I guess, right now.
And Casey, can I ask, again, looking at the comps, right? This discussion is around kind of that, perceived real competitive advantage, disadvantage. I mean, what percentage of your overall sales do you think are going to come from these single serve airplane bottles, et cetera, in this area? What's the percentage if we talk about it?
I don't have that information. I would have to reach out to our wine and spirits department to get information regarding that.
Do you have a ballpark?
I do not.
Do you have a ballpark for your competitors?
I do not.
So I think here's the struggle without, and I don't know how quickly you can kind of reach the answer, right? And I think it's a question of putting up such a the objections on the license without being at least saying, okay, here's the kind of rough percent it's going to make. It can be it makes that argument slightly weaker, in my opinion, without understanding kind of the percentages. But again, just my 2 cents on it. So, Mr. Chair, I yield back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Fletcher. Alder Skidmore and then Alder Carter. Alder Skidmore.
Thank you. A question for the registrant. Excuse me, how many security people will you have on duty at any given time? And would one of their responsibilities be to maintain order in the parking lot if necessary?
We do not have any security hired. That is where for security cameras are for, and obviously employees on site will be trained, to handle issues that may come up.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Alder Skidmore. Alder Carter.
Yeah, I do have a question. I have a comment, sorry, because Quick Trip does not sell liquor. And you mentioned Quick Trips. So can you explain that?
Sure. Yeah, they don't sell liquor, but they do sell single serve beer, I guess, is what I was referring to.
Okay. And can you find out before we close this tonight how long you keep the video or digital recording of your security cameras? Thank you.
All right. What additional questions do people have of this registrant? Ms. Reese.
Quick question. You mentioned you wouldn't have security on site because that's what cameras are for. So will there be someone reviewing those in real time or periodically through the day, or how will that work?
Yes, they do review them periodically. And I guess, if any issues do arise, that's when they, if issues arise, a few times, then they'll review it immediately upon that. Otherwise, it is periodically.
Can you define that more? What does periodically mean? Is that a few times a day, a few times a week, month?
I am not certain on that.
Okay, thank you.
But I do know, and just, I guess, to answer Alder Carter's question too, we keep the security footage for 30 days.
Thank you. Committee, what questions do you have for this registrant? All right, thank you for your time, Ms. Bonjour. Do we have any further registrants on this topic?
None wishing to speak. I'm not sure if the clerk wants to go through and read off all the other people registered.
That would be great. Ms. Hart, can you let us know who is...
And for some reason, Pete has his hand up.
Noted. Ms. Hart, can you list off the others who are registered but not wishing to speak, whether they are for or against?
Yes, I've got Jane Meyer in opposition, not wishing to speak but is available to answer questions. Daniel Nordstrom, opposed, does not wish to speak. James Steinbach, opposed, does not wish to speak. Janet Hirsch, opposed, does not wish to speak. Catherine McComb, opposed, does not wish to speak. Judy Bluel, opposed, does not wish to speak. Christine Erickson, opposed, does not wish to speak. Deborah Wynn, opposed, does not wish to speak. Ron Wynn, opposed, does not wish to speak. Wendy Reichel, opposed, does not wish to speak. Barbara Rockenbach, opposed, does not wish to speak. And S. Powers, opposed, does not wish to speak. And that's all.
Thank you, Ms. Hart. And I'll note that a number of those registrants were here at our meeting last month and did speak then. Committee members, do you have any questions for any of the registrants who are willing to answer questions? Okay, so hearing none, what is your pleasure? Alder Skidmore and then Mr. Kano Espina.
I have a question for staff. Captain Donahue. I'll try to say this with a straight face, or ask it with a straight face. What's the probability that MPD could respond to a call for open intoxicants in the parking lot or on the street at any given time of day or night?
Well, it depends on the time of day or night and whatever else the people of Madison have on their minds that are drawing our attention. But I will say that that's not limited to this Hy-Vee or any of the other Hy-Vees in town or any other liquor store in town.
Okay, follow-up question for City Attorney Zilovy. I'm not sure if she's the appropriate one, but if there was a gathering in the parking lot or the street, and that could be at Hy-Vee or, take your pick of any establishment with open intoxicants, could private security engage these individuals to seek them to cease and desist, or is that something that's totally up to the owner?
Well, I'm guessing if there was private security, it would be at the direction of the owner and that they would be acting on behalf of the owner. So presumably the owner would have a plan in place for those situations. And then they would be able to tell the patrons to disperse.
I think that answer is sufficient. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Skidmore, Mr. Cano Espina, and then Alder Carter.
I was going to make a motion to deny, but I will wait and have other comments.
Sounds good. Alder Carter.
Captain Donahue, were you able to pull up call of service for this area?
Well, unfortunately, tonight is the first I've heard of a request for calls for service. And so without any kind of parameters, I don't really know what folks are looking for, if they're looking for a comparison with other licensed establishments in the area that are similar. If that's necessary, we would have to set some parameters, and it's likely not something I could just whip off here. But I will reiterate that Captain Patton, when he spoke to the folks from Hy-Vee and reviewed their plan in the area, said that he didn't have, his biggest concern with the establishment being there is traffic related and not related to the establishment itself.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Alder Carter. Are there any other questions or discussion? All right. Seeing none, a motion would be in order at this time. I will remind the members of the committee that if someone were to make a motion to deny, they would need that to be on the grounds that approving this would be counter to the health, safety, and welfare of the community. And I would recommend making that clear and enumerating why. Mr. Cano Espina.
Move to deny on the grounds that this establishment is against the safety and well-being of the community.
Okay, we have a motion to deny this application. Is there a second to that motion? Seeing no second, that motion dies for lack of a second.
Second. There's a second.
Oh, okay. I have a second from Mr. Grady. Mr. Cano Espina, would you like to speak to your motion?
Yeah, I think that, thank you, Chair. I think that the conditions that we have talked about are conditions that make sense to make our community safer, be able to allow access to the level of alcohol sales and the type of alcohol sales that we feel will provide safety for this community in this particular neighborhood, based on also the information that we hear from the community members. I feel that the applicant has been very clear that that they will not take any conditions, even conditions that will allow him, the applicant, to come back and work on proving that they are able to have a safe business selling all the different types of alcohol that they want to sell. Based on that, I really don't want to spend a lot of time trying to find a compromise that does not provide the safety and well-being of that neighborhood. I know it's a big business. I know it's a lot of money. I know that they're investing. I like Hy-Vee. I go to Hy-Vee and buy stuff. It's not about the business. It's about the safety of the community and based on what the community is requesting. And we have done this with many businesses. We have done this like, let's work through the conditions. And then in 6 months we do this. And but this business is saying, no, we have a principal stand. And so that's why I feel that we need to have a principal stand on the safety of the community.
Thank you, Mr. Cano-Espina. Remind everyone I don't necessarily call on people in the order that they raise their hands. I want to make sure voices haven't been heard as much that they are represented. So we'll have Assistant City Attorney Zilovy, Ms. Westra, Ms. Reese, and Alder Skidmore.
I'm concerned about what I'm hearing here because when this was before you previously, after hearing all the public testimony, et cetera, you approved it and sent it on to Common Council. And just because they say that they're going to pull the deal if you impose conditions, that's not really a basis to deny this license. Your basis to deny the license has got to be on the record that's before you, and the record has to reflect health, safety, and welfare issues that support your denial of the license.
And if we were to grant the license with conditions and the applicant chose not to go forward with it, that would be the choice of the applicant.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you, Assistant City Attorney Zilovy, Ms. Westra, and then Ms. Reese.
I will be voting against the denial for the license. I will also vote against adding conditions to this license. I think previous ALRCs did not add conditions to Total Wine. They have not come back over the years and added conditions to Steve's. I don't see why Hy-Vee in this situation, in this case, would need to have conditions added to their license. I also would like to say that a lot of things that I'm hearing is we have this expectation that it's going to turn into a party place because those people will be coming here and buying airline bottles and drinking in the parking lot. I have not seen that at Total Wine. I've never seen that at Steve's. Other places with a lot of people want to try samples of smaller alcohol with COVID going on. I personally like going in and buying 1 or 2 single serve beers of craft beer of stuff that I haven't tried instead of investing in a whole pack. So that's where I stand. I'm done.
Thank you, Ms. Westra, Ms. Reese, and then Alder Skidmore.
Thank you. So my concern is that I'm not sure who brought up the conditions at the council meeting. I don't know if that was Alder Skidmore. Of course, he would be representing his community, and he can clarify that when he speaks again. But, we did have that discussion last month, and while the vote did pass and I was voting in favor of the license, it barely passed. So we had just to Attorney Zilovy's point, it was contentious based on the issues that we're discussing this month. And so I largely agree with Ms. Westra on all the points that she made. I also personally don't drink often. And if I do, I'm going to grab one of those airplane bottles because that's my night. So it's a little unreasonable to assume that just because you sell those, that it's going to be everything's going to hell. I don't know another way to say it. I also am very troubled by the businesses reluctance to work with the community. And it's unfortunate that it's coming back up, but that's, what happened at the city council meeting, even given, that we do work with people. So that does concern me about, will this business be willing to, do they care about the community? I know they have the West Side store, but I don't know. So I just wanted to state all my concerns while I'm deliberating in my own head which way I'm going to vote on this, and looking forward to hearing the rest of you speak.
Excellent. Thank you, Ms. Reese. We have Alder Skidmore and then Mr. Cano-Espina.
Thank you. And for the record, I am representing the interest of my constituents who were referenced earlier in their opposition to this license in this form. And I have represented this area for a long time. These are real issues, and this is a new use in a well-established and very visible location. And the first thing I'd like to say before I get too far into it is I want to agree with Rob when he talked about the concerns about redevelopment in this area. There is a concern about redevelopment in the area, but it's not because of this center or of Westtown. That stemmed from a recent discussion we had at the council level where city planning advocated changing the base zoning underneath a new business, as in Amazon, which would have precluded the owner from making improvements. City Attorney's Office opined that it wasn't a taking, but it would restrict the use of private property, so you can see that as fit. I think that this is a good development area and that the owner is doing due diligence to do as much as he can. So I applaud him for that and I will support him on that. So I wanted to make that clear from my statements at the last time. I'm also very concerned by Hy-Vee's reluctance to listen to the neighborhood and draw a line in the sand. I am willing to support a license that has the reasonable conditions that we've applied to other areas. And Alder Verveer, I think, was the author of these conditions. They've been applied throughout the city appropriately and fairly. And I think it's appropriate, and I would support that. I don't like the idea of denying the license, but if Hy-Vee is not willing to listen to the neighborhood and give this a try, I have grave concerns about that. And then in terms of some comments I heard about, there are no problems with the other places. There are problems with the other places. It's just you don't see them calling because people buy these after they've drank them, they drop them in the parking lot or the street. I live a few blocks from that area and I frequent that area. I go to the Quick Trip on regularly and I go to other stores. I go to Metcalf's. They do have the ability to sell miniatures because they've been there for a long time. And this is back before this was, these conditions were applied there. I think Metcalf's and Total Wine are the only two Class A in that direct area that sell the airplane bottles. And I can't speak to Steve's. That's on the other side of the Beltline, but it's close. But there are 15 outlets, Class A and B outlets within a half mile of the high school. Dan Nordstrom sent everybody a letter talking about the issues surrounding this. There's a school that's very close. So this is an issue, and these are real issues, and these constituents are concerned, and I'm concerned with them. So I do not look at these restrictions as a poison pill. I look at it as an opportunity to, work with the neighborhood and develop a relationship. So if the denial goes through, it goes through, but if it doesn't go through, I'm still going to be requesting that the conditions be applied to the license, and we'll let Hy-Vee decide how they want to work with the community. So. That's what I have to say.
Thank you, Alder Skidmore. Mr. Cano-Espina.
I want to make it very clear. I wasn't at the last month meeting, so I was not able to made a comment in opposition to this before. And based on some of the information I heard, it may have been a close call if I had been present, or it may have been denied. I do want to advise from the attorney. If my motion may not be advisable, I could withdraw it, and then we can have the motion with the conditions, if that's the advice from the attorney. I don't want to do something illegal. I do have concerns. I think that we have these restrictions in many businesses across the city for safety of the community. Many business. I also buy single service in some locations. I go to the winery and buy the little bottles directly from the winery. So I understand why I use single servings, but I also know single servings can be a problem, and it does have a problem for many individuals. And as I agree with the elder, that the community that he's representing is saying we are worried about this. So that is important. So I don't know if the attorney could answer my question. Is this inappropriate?
So do you have a question for Assistant City Attorney Brist?
Yes. Is this an inappropriate motion, and we should withdraw it?
Well, I think what's important is not whether it's an inappropriate motion or not, is whether or not a record has been made that there are health, safety, and welfare concerns for denying the license. And that should be clear on the record for a outside observer to determine that is being made. If you want to deny the license for health, safety, and welfare reasons, I mean, you might want to cite some of the things that you feel are in the record that are health, safety, and welfare issues with this particular license, especially in comparison to other establishments in the area.
Okay, thank you, Assistant.
Parking, it can be location of schools. It can be too many licenses in one area. Those kinds of things are legitimate, but there should be something in the record that shows that, so in case there is a review.
Excellent. Thank you, Assistant City Attorney Brist. Mr. Cano-Espina, do you have further comment?
No, I'm hoping that I made it clear that it is about that concern, the concern about the community, the schools, the availability of single servings. So I hope I made it clear. If somebody else can help me make it more clear, I will be more than happy with that.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Cano-Espina. Alder Carter.
Thank you. I will say the only person that I know that can make anything clear is Alder Verveer. He has straightened my comments out many, many times. Well, I just want to say a couple things. My disappointment in this company is their lack of outreach to the community. Because I think if they had done some outreach to the community, we would be in a different position right now. You should never get so big that you are unable to see that there's a concern and reach out to try to resolve it. And that's my biggest disappointment. The comment that was made about the airport bottles, the comment of those people. Well, let me tell you, I don't know what those people mean. I know that airport bottles are bottles that you can drink right out of the store. It's not that you have to take it home, and anyone can do it. It is an equal opportunity purchase. It goes across race lines, equity, and culture. So I don't know if that was a slant that we were trying to say, that I was trying to say a certain group of people did this. I'm talking about in general. The other thing that I'm concerned about, in addition to the fact that that Hy-Vees did not reach out to the community, is I'm concerned about 9,000 square feet and 2 employees. That's a big store and 2 employees. And what is the safety and wellness of those 2 employees and 9,000 square feet? Anything can happen. I will not be voting to grant Hy-Vee's license based on my first statement, my first sentence, which was the lack of reaching out to the community. And we asked for specific information based on what they said about being competitive, and they did not bring that to the table. And when you are coming back to the ALRC, knowing that these are questions that you have put out there, Hy-Vee put out there, as far as being competitive with Steve's Liquor and being competitive with Total Wine, what Quick Trip is doing, where's the data? That's on you. And that's where I stand on this. And this is a sad vote too. Let me just say that. Regardless if it passes or not, it's a sad vote because I really think that Hy-Vee's could have done a better job. And for full disclosure, I do shop at Hy-Vee's. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Alder Carter. So I don't see any more hands. We have a vote before us from, yes, Mr. Grady.
I guess in my experience, I don't remember anything coming back from the council in this way. And I guess I'd ask Alder Verveer also to kind of give us a picture of why this came back. I mean, it was contentious when we dealt with it. I think the vote was 4-3, and probably if Mr. Canto Espina was here, it would have been 4-4, and who knows what would have happened after that. But I just like a picture of what the council is looking for and what they found objectionable here. If he would do that for us, I don't know, maybe I'm putting on the spot and I shouldn't do that, but he does clarify things.
Alder Verveer, would you care to address that?
Thank you, Chairperson Donnelly, and thank you for the question, Mr. Grady. And I certainly want to thank my friend and council colleague, Council President Carter, for her kind words about me earlier. In terms of adding to what I stated earlier about the council action at our last meeting, perhaps I can lay it out in more of a chronology of events. The Alder of the district, Alderperson Skidmore, had notified the council in advance in writing via our proposed consent agenda several hours before the meeting that he was proposing the standard Class A conditions plus the additional allowance that the applicant may ask that they have the conditions modified within 6 months of their operation opening. So we had that, us alders had that before us going into the meeting. I don't know if the applicant, when and if the applicant was notified that the alder of the district was going to be asking that those conditions be included in a motion to grant. I certainly don't want to speak for Alderperson Skidmore, but it seemed to me that Alder Skidmore had compromised in his position. So for the benefit of those of you, our committee colleagues here that weren't at our last ALRC meeting, the alder of the district did oppose the license, just period. And there was no kind of real attempt at compromise. So it seemed that Alderperson Skidmore, in my estimation, was attempting to compromise between the last ALRC meeting and the council meeting as it relates to this application in his alderman district that he's been elected to represent, by agreeing to support the granting of the license then at our last council meeting, but with the, again, standard, and I say standard because in my opinion, they're standard in the greater geographic area where I reside and represent, those conditions. At the council meeting, as I stated previously, the applicant, when they were called upon by the mayor to speak in the public hearing after registering, stated that they were opposed to any and all conditions. I don't know if the applicant was as explicit as he was tonight, that the Des Moines corporate office position is that they will up and leave our jurisdiction in terms of a freestanding liquor store, perhaps going to the town or city of Middleton. I don't know what their thinking might be, but that it wasn't as perhaps threatening. And I agree with Council President Carter. I do not care for the somewhat disrespectful attitude of the applicant, but I'm trying to not let that bias me in my vote tonight. But in any event, the applicant's representative made it clear that they would not accept any conditions. So pretty much with that, and by the way, the landlord's representative also testified at the council public hearing. So with that, Alderperson Keith Furman, also representing the West Side District, moved that this matter be referred back to the ALRC for further proceedings, given that the applicant was stating these strong objections to the conditions. So rather than the council dealing with the individual conditions and deliberating over those during our council meeting, it's much preferred, of course, by most alders that we deal with all the specific work, the hard work here, which is why in all the years I've had the honor and privilege of serving on the council, I would estimate that 99.9% of the ALRC's recommendations to the Common Council are ratified practically with little discussion and little controversy. This, of course, was, I think, an effort to refer it back to us at the ALRC, an effort to keep that tradition going. Most alders don't want to deal with liquor license issues at council meetings. So I don't know if that additional summary, Mr. Grady, was helpful or not. This was, in my estimation, a tough one. I appreciate that Alderperson Skidmore has come around to supporting granting a license. I just wish, I have to say, that the applicant and would agree to compromise perhaps on some of these conditions. I can explain the standard conditions as a reminder, but perhaps new to the applicant. These conditions were negotiated with the industry several years ago now, and they are very specific conditions because they use industry terminology as to product sizes and offerings and so forth. So when these were negotiated, if you will, with the industry several years ago, they were then supported by the industry. And I can't recall many applicants opposing these standard conditions. I will, though, accept that I guess this is the first time perhaps in the 9th Aldermanic District that we have attempted to impose these on an applicant. But that I guess goes to the heart of the matter that's before us this evening.
Excellent. Thank you, Alder Revere.
You're welcome.
So we have a motion and a second to deny this application on the grounds that it's counter to the health, safety, and welfare to the community. Ms. Har, will you please do a roll call vote?
Did Mr. Fletcher want to speak first?
Oh, I apologize. I had already started talking. Mr. Fletcher.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, not to interrupt your flow, but I don't know if, can I ask a question of the applicant, Mr. Chair? Would that be okay?
By all means.
I guess, Mr. Hoche, going back, have you kind of reviewed the 4 conditions that were, the standard conditions as Alder Verveer has discussed. You've had an opportunity to see those before, correct?
We were not provided with a copy of those. We understand that it is a limitation on the small airline bottles and single service beer, and then a condition to come back in 6 months to review if those conditions are lifted. I think a few questions came up about the percentage of sales that come from these types of services. The airline bottles is probably in the 1% to 2% of our business for normal wine and spirits locations, but the single serve beer is really the craft beer industry. That's our number one seller within the entire craft beer area is the mix and match. So it goes beyond the 12-pack sales and things like that. So the mix and match is kind of like our honey spot, I suppose you should say. That's a very big portion of our business from the craft beer perspective, which is 50 to 60% of our beer sales is craft beer. But no, we did not see, or I did not see the conditions. I was made aware of the parameters of the conditions, and the 2 that are of concern to us are the small airline bottles and then the single serve beer. And then the condition for 6-month review is just something that, and I'm apologetic. I know that I've come across strong tonight. I don't mean to be disrespectful, but an investment like this to be at a competitive disadvantage to the other retailers within the market is not something that we're looking for. We truly love Madison. We've had great stores within the market, and I think our community outreach has been great. Speaking to the one concern that we did not engage the customers, we did have
Mr. Harsh, can I just I appreciate you going back and trying to address I think various questions. I just, for the record, since you're saying that you haven't seen the 4 conditions, I do, for the record, just, if Alder Verveer wouldn't mind kind of walking through those for all of us to have a clear understanding of, including you, Mr. Harsh, what these conditions are.
I don't think your motion has the conditions on it. I think your motion is to deny the license altogether.
No. So I don't think it's a question of you, Mr. Harsh. I'm not asking you a question right now. I'm asking Alder Verveer if he wouldn't mind just going through those conditions the 4 conditions we're actually discussing. They're not part of this motion. You're correct at the moment. But I do want to kind of us forever, just a common understanding of what these 4 conditions are.
Thank you, Mr. Fletcher. In the interest of clarity, might it be best if we vote on the current motion and then, should it fail, have another one that has these conditions?
I am happy to take guidance from you, Mr. Chair, in that regard. The only thing I was thinking is I didn't know if I think that would be fine. Yeah.
Alder Verveer, do you have comments you'd like to make at this time?
Thank you again. I'm certainly happy to try to articulate the conditions further as Mr. Fletcher requested. Let me just say that the so-called, again, my phrase, not an official phrase, standard Class A conditions were imposed twice by this committee at our last regular meeting. So if my colleagues wish to review the minutes to our last meeting, which I think we all have the packets easily in front of us on our devices, you'll see them there. And so if we do want to go through that exercise, I'd also look to you, Chairperson Donnelly, to ably share your Zoom screen as you have in prior meetings and pull those conditions up. I do want to say, though, before we take this vote, that that mix and match craft beers is exactly the reason why we spent over a year developing these conditions, and the conditions specifically exempt those because of the popularity of mix and match with craft beers. So that's why we use industry terms, which again, I won't get into if we want to proceed to immediate vote to deny contrary to health, safety, and welfare of the community. But I can explain that further if there is an appropriate time and interest in doing so.
Excellent. Thank you, Alder Verveer. So if there are no further questions, Ms. Howard, will you please call the roll for this vote? Everyone bear in mind that you have many options other than denial if you do not support full approval with no conditions. Ms. Howard.
Mr. Cano Espina.
Aye.
Aye. President Carter. Oh, I'm sorry, President Carter, you're on mute.
Aye. Can you hear me?
Yep, thank you. Aye. Vice Chair Fletcher?
No.
No. Mr. Grady? Aye. Ms. Reese?
No.
No. Alder Skidmore? There.
Pass.
Pass. Alder Verveer?
No.
No. Ms. Westra?
No.
No. Alder Skidmore?
Abstain.
Abstain. Mr. Chair, there were 3 ayes, 4 noes, and 1 abstain.
Motion fails. All right, committee, we've had a motion to deny, which has failed. Would someone like to make a new motion? Alder Skidmore.
I will move approval of the license with the 5 conditions previously referenced.
For the record, would you or someone else who cares to volunteer read out those conditions?
I don't have them handy. Can somebody help me?
Let's see. Working on it. Okay, the minutes just say grant with conditions. So
I think I found them in the file.
That would be great if you'd be willing to read them out. Thank you.
Yes. Let's see here. The conditions are, number 1, the establishment shall not sell, dispense, or give away fermented malt beverages in the original container in amounts less than the amount contained in a 6-pack of 12-ounce bottles or cans. This is only applicable to fermented malt beverages, which fall into the following categories of brands: domestic premium, domestic sub-premium, which includes value and economy brands, malt liquor, and similarly situated imported brands. Number 2, flavored malt beverages containing up to 6% alcohol by volume may not be sold, dispensed, or given away in the original container in amounts less than a 4-pack of 12-ounce bottles or cans. Flavored malt beverages containing over 6% alcohol by volume may not be sold, dispensed, or given away in the original container in amounts less than a 6-pack of 12-ounce bottles or cans. Condition number 3, the establishment shall not sell, dispense, or give away intoxicating liquor in the original container in amounts of 200 milliliters or less in volume. Intoxicating liquor shall not include wine in the original container with an alcohol content of 15% or less by volume. Condition 4, the establishment shall not sell, dispense, or give away flavored fortified wines in the original container with an alcohol content of more than 12.5% alcohol by volume, where spirits have been added to the wine that have not been produced from the same fruit as the wine for consumption off the licensed premises. This prohibition shall not apply to any other wine product as defined by Wisconsin State Statute 125.02, subsection 22. And then condition number 5, the applicant shall have a neighborhood meeting no sooner than 6 months after opening, and at that time, the applicant could return to the ALRC to request that the conditions be modified.
Beautiful. Thank you very much, Ms. Har. So we have that motion from Alder Skidmore. Is there a second to Alder Skidmore's motion to grant with conditions?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Alder Verveer.
Thank you. And I do want to confirm at the outset here that the conditions that Jen articulated are absolutely the ones that Alderperson Skidmore proposed at the last council meeting, verbatim. I do want to clarify too that if any of my colleagues hadn't found them, that I do have the minutes to our last meeting from tonight's packet in front of me, our January 20th meeting, and indeed the minutes do include each of these conditions on 2 different pages. They relate to agenda item number 11 and agenda item number 13 that we again approved at our last regular meeting. If anyone wants me to further explain again how we came up with these conditions, I'm happy to do so. I do want to point out that one of the proposed conditions, as implemented in most cases around the city where we have these conditions, is more restrictive than just the so-called 50 ml airplane bottle size. So this prohibition is larger sizes, 200 ml or less. So that would be one area where, if it seems to me that if we wanted to compromise with the applicant, proposed condition number 3 is perhaps the most restrictive of all of these. But again, in my many conversations with the industry and others when we were developing these conditions, the issue, because they only apply to the categories, again, using industry terminology of domestic premium, domestic sub-premium, malt liquor, etc., in essence, exempt craft beer. And so we really have found very few objections whatsoever to most of these conditions, including certainly those that just have Class A beer licenses, like those with gas pumps, like the Quick Trips of the world. And again, it's condition number 3 relating to intoxicating liquor that probably is the most difficult for the applicants to find acceptable. And so perhaps more of a conversation with the applicant on that item, either in this meeting or between now and the council meeting, when this will be before the council again in March, might be appropriate in terms of if we're looking to try to find common ground and compromise. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Alder Verveer. So committee, you have a motion before you to grant with conditions. Is there any further discussion of this motion? Mr. Cano-Espina.
As I stated before, I think that it is important to maintain the safety of our community. I do believe that these conditions help us move in that direction. So I will be voted in favor of this because I believe that we have applied these conditions for other businesses in the interest of safety of the community. So I think that this moves me in that direction.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Cano-Espina. Mr. Fletcher.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Now that I think the 5 conditions have been, reestablished here, I do want to, Mr. Harsh, get any questions that you may have about the conditions, at this juncture.
No, I don't think I have any questions. I think I understand them. I was confused a bit on and I apologize. I came in as a backup for an individual who was on vacation. If the conditions were provided that I was not provided those. But still comes back to the fact that we need to be on a level playing field with our competition. And we just aren't willing to make the investment. I understand that there'd be a comprehensive review after 6 months, but we would.
Mr. Harsh, the question from Mr. Fletcher was if you understood these conditions and if you had questions about them, not your position related to them.
Okay, I understand the conditions.
Excellent. Mr. Fletcher, do you have further questions for the applicant?
No, I don't. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Fletcher. Thank you, Mr. Hush. Committee members, do you have any further discussion or questions for the applicants or anything? Okay. Alder Carter.
Yes, and this is to Mr. Hash. If there was, how do I want to say this? Could you agree with the conditions if 3 and 5 were removed, since you understand them?
I apologize, but the direction that we've been given is that if we don't have an equal playing field with our competitors, we are not going to move forward this project. It was something that we wanted to bring to the market, but if we're not on a level playing field, then we are not interested in moving forward.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Alder Carter. Maybe what further questions do you have for the applicant or discussion of the motion? Hearing none. Ms. Har, will you please call the roll on the motion to grant with conditions? Note that the conditions are not exactly the ones from this item from last week. These are really for educational purposes and to help people follow along at home. Ms. Har.
Mr. Cano-Espina.
Aye.
Aye. President Carter.
Aye.
Aye. Vice Chair Fletcher.
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Grady.
Aye.
Aye. Ms. Reese.
Aye.
Aye. Alder Skidmore.
Aye.
Aye. Alder Verveer.
Aye.
Aye. Ms. Westra.
No.
No. Mr. Chair, it's 7 ayes and 1 no.
Thank you, Ms. Har. The motion carries. So we have dealt with this item. I would recommend to the applicant that they consult with among other people, their liquor distributor for the state of Wisconsin, who might be able to explain what the specific terms mean and what impact there is on operations because of this. But I hope that they will still decide that they want to do business in the area. So next up, I have lost my... Next up is item 9, application for a new license for Meat People Butcher at 4106 Monona Drive. Do we have someone registered for this applicant?
Oh, that's me.
Excellent. Can you please describe your proposed business?
We are planning on opening a whole animal butchery with some grocery, and we're hoping to sell wine and beer.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Committee, what
just as retail, sorry.
Okay. Committee, what questions do you have for the applicant? Anyone? If there are no questions, a motion would be in order. Alder Carter.
Do we have your, I don't know if my packet is not complete or what, but was there a site plan of your store?
I believe we did include that, yeah.
So I don't see it, but it's a butcher shop and wine and beer exclusively. No one can sit in there and eat and drink, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Alder Carter. What other questions do you have, committee? Alder Carter?
I'm ready to make a motion. If we're ready, I move approval.
Motion to approve. I see several seconds. Ms. Westra seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Anyone who is opposed to a unanimous vote in support, raise your hand so we can have a roll call. I see no hands. So Ms. Hart, please record unanimous support granting the license for item 9.
Thank you.
Next up is item 14, report of the Madison Police Department. Captain Donahue, do you have anything particular to which you would like to call our attention?
No, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Committee members, do you have any questions for Captain Donahue? Hearing none, move on to item 15, report of the City Clerk's Office. Ms. Hard, do you have anything to which you would like to call our attention?
I do not, and I checked with Jim Pryor, and there was nothing from him.
Thank you very much. Committee, do you have any questions for our representative from the Clerk's Office? That brings us to the final item, adjournment. Do I hear a motion to adjourn? Ms. Westra, second from Mr. Kano Espina. All in favor of adjourning indicate by saying aye.
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 And I just want to say good job, Jennifer.
Yes, great job.
Thank you.
Anyone opposed to adjournment indicate by saying no. Motion carries. I adjourn this meeting of the Alcohol License Review Committee at 8:14 p.m. Thank you, everyone, and have a good night.